What's up, guys? Today we are going to be replacing the joystick on this old N64 controller, and as you can see, this joystick has some wear. Basically pretty much useless at this point. Well played, lots of years of play, but as you can see, it doesn't really return to the center without barely moving it. You can see the joystick is just inaccurate movements. It'll have drift left and right. So today we're going to be making it so that it's pretty much tight again, like this stick here. This one isn't fantastic. I'd probably give it an 8 out of 10. It still works better than this one for sure. So we're going to be replacing it today with genuine parts from Kitchbench, which is a good company that sells replacement bowls, gears, and sticks for the N64 controller. So today what you're going to need is you're going to need a replacement bowl from Kitchbench. You're going to need a small gear assembly, small axis, and a large one as well. Links in the description for these parts. The other parts you're going to need today is a sharp knife like this Swiss Army knife that I have. This is going to be for removing some of the flashing on the parts. You're going to need some kind of lubricant, so I use silicone ceramic brake lubricant here. It's basically just a grease, and you want that for the bottom of the bowl. You're also going to need something like isopropyl alcohol, 99%. I also use contact cleaner as well. This is good for cleaning up any kind of grossness. Potentially also an air duster, just to get rid of some of the crud that's inside of there. Also have a little toothbrush if needs a little bit of scrubbing, and just some Q-tips. They're always good, again, for cleaning. So we're going to start by removing the screws on the back of the controller. So for these on the N64 controller, they're basically just Phillips screws. So I use a PH2 bit here on my electronic screwdriver. Sorry, I lied. Not a PH2. You're going to want a PH1 so that it fits right in there. Electronic screwdriver is very good if you do lots of controller repairs like I do. I buy big lots off of websites like Sendico and Buyee and stuff like that, and I repair a lot of these and sell them in my local flea market. Really good, especially whenever you refurbish them. So there is going to be 2, 4, 6, 7 screws on the main body. There's going to be 2 screws inside of the expansion port there. So you can take the screws all the way out, or what I like to do is I just bring them all the way to the top until I know that they're out. This way you can actually save the screws inside of the body here. We're going to go to the very top and grab the 2 inside here. They are quite difficult to get at. My screwdriver has a little light on it whenever it's turned on, so I like to use that little light to make sure I'm on the screw. Just like that. Should be good. We're going to see if we could pull it away from the main body. Just like that. All the screws do stay in this right here, so I can just put that off to the side. These bumpers also come off, so we just move them to the side because they're a little annoying. They do fall out. So this is the inside of the controller. These are the shoulder buttons up here, and this is the main part that we want to take out. This is the whole joystick assembly right here. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the Z button on the back, move that up. We're going to undo the joystick connector here, and there's going to be 3 more Phillips screws on the back here that we are going to take out. These ones you really can't keep in because as soon as they're all the way unthreaded, then they're basically just fall. So we're going to have to remove those one by one. All these are the exact same screw, all 3 of these, so you don't need to really keep track of the orientation. Just like the screws on the back, the only 2 screws that are different are on the expansion port up here. All the other 7 screws are the exact same, so they can go in any order. Just like that, we already have the whole joystick assembly. Take it out. So if we wanted to, we could replace this whole joystick assembly with a pre-bought one. Retrobit, I believe, sells one, and that they just sell a drop-in replacement where you can replace this whole stick with a modern one. But since we like to keep the vintage parts and we like to keep all the vintage electronics working, basically what we can do is refurbish this one now. So the only thing holding this joystick together now is these 2 clips at the top and 1 more screw on the bottom. This is like the set screw. This is basically a screw that can set the tension, and it can set how tight the assembly is pressed together. So at the end, whenever we replace all these sticks and we replace all the components, if we have a little bit of wiggle room, we can adjust that set screw just a little bit and it might fix it. So now that we have that back screw off, you can see that it starts to come away because it is spring loaded on the inside there. It starts coming away from the 2 pieces of plastic start to separate. Now all we have to do is we have to lift these little tabs up. Watch out, these tabs do break. I have broken a bunch of them, but all you're doing is lifting with your fingernail just a little bit, and then it's going to clip from this black piece at the back, and we're going to go to the other side and do the exact same thing. Just like that. Make sure you're gentle with it, and this whole thing is going to finally pop up just like that. From there, we can remove the assembly. You're going to have two pieces. You're going to have the main circuit board, the bowl, and the big gear. And then on the other part, the top of the joystick, you're going to have the smaller gear, the spring, this little plastic wafer, and the joystick. So from here, what we can do is we can remove the circuit board, remove the large gear, remove the bowl, and your two little rotary encoder wheels. And now you just have the bottom base here. So now that we have the bottom base, we can give it a little blow. Just like that. And what we can do as well is we'll grab a little bit of isopropyl alcohol on our little toothbrush here, and we can just clean up the little bit of debris that's inside of our back housing. So since we have everything taken apart, we might as well give everything a good clean, because it's probably never going to be open again. Just like that. Isopropyl alcohol will dry with air. Boom, all good. So now when we're looking at this, we can see exactly how these things wear. So basically how this wears is this stick, or this part of the gear, rubs on the different pieces of plastic, and you get wear on this bottom gear, as you can see, the large gear, and that is where we're getting the stick movement. So this is supposed to be, I'll show you the new one compared to the old one. And as you can see here, the new one is definitely not worn, the old one is very much worn. So that's where we get some sloppiness. Same as the smaller gear. As you can see, this one's worn a lot more compared to the new gear, just like that. Lots of wear. The new one's going to be nice and tight. Same as the bowl. If we just compare the bowls real quick, this one has lots of powder in it. It's got lots of ground plastic, where the joystick has basically ground the bowl to dust. And on the new one, we're not going to have that. So I have seen some techniques to fix your old bowl to make it like a new bowl. Not really worth it considering these pieces are so cheap. So on Kitchbench, I think for a bowl and a set of gears, it's around $4 before shipping. So if you buy enough of them or do enough controllers, it kind of works out. And that's Canadian, for the record. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take our wheels out, because the kit does not come with new rotary encoder wheels. These would be hard to machine, as you can see, or even 3D print, because the slots are so tiny on them. So we need to reuse those. Those typically don't get wore out because all they do is spin on a shaft here. We're going to take both sides out just by applying a little bit of pressure to the arm here and pulling it out of the socket. As you can see, there's two little spindles that it sits on. And one of the problems we're going to run into first with the Kitchbench new bowl is that the inside here doesn't spin as freely as the original does. So if we have a look here, this spins so free. It's very good. It's got no resistance basically at all. And that's the first thing that we're going to work on with the Kitchbench one. So if we just go right away and put in this rotary encoder into the new bowl from Kitchbench, it's not going to spin as nicely as the original one does. It spins, and quite freely, but the other one, you could spin it and it will spin a few rotations. So we're going to work on that a tiny bit with the Kitchbench one. What we're going to do is I'm going to take a little tiny blade like this, and this is the old one, and I'm going to basically just come in and I'm going to carve out just a tiny bit. If there's any flashing on the inside, it's hard to see. I'm just working that tip of that knife on the inside of that bowl, just a little bit of this where the spindle sits, just ever so slightly. Don't gouge, don't put any pressure on the knife, just let the knife, make sure it's a sharp knife, make the knife do the work for you. So we're just going to round it a little bit. Probably won't do too much, but what we'll do to compensate as well is we'll shove a little bit of grease in there with our Q-tip or with our tweezers. So what we're going to do now is we're going to get our grease out. I'm going to take just a little bit of grease on the head of my tweezers, and I'm going to set that in to the back where the spindle's going to sit, just a tiny bit, as you can see. Just put a little bit of grease in there, and I'm going to put a little bit of grease where the spindle is going to sit on the main part of the body as well. I found this helps a little bit. You're not going to get it feeling like an original stick again, but it'll definitely be better than what we had before. So we're going to just, again, pry this arm up a bit, get the 2 spindles in, and work that grease in just a little bit. So as you can see, the grease is helping just a little bit. Make sure you don't put too much. Less is more 100% of the time with grease, especially in this. We're just going to work that in a little bit, and it does feel like it's spinning a little bit better. So again, come in with the knife, do a little circular motion inside of there. Do a little bit on the flashing on here. A very tiny bit of plastic gets removed. That's on the tip of my knife. Awesome, just like that. Okay, good enough. Take a little bit of grease again. Might be a little bit too much. We're gonna shove it right into the hole. Boom, just like that. Gonna get a little tiny bit more grease. And we're gonna put it on the receiving hole. Boom. Get our rotary encoder wheel. Again, lifting up on the arm a little bit and just giving it a few spins. Again, since these are new parts, the joystick, the way it feels as soon as you put it together, it will wear in a bit and it'll start to feel better over time. That'll take hours of play before that happens. So there we go. So that's our new bowl with our rotary encoder wheels on it. Now we can work on our gears. So the reason we need the knife again on these is that whenever these are produced, there is some flashing that gets left on these parts. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna remove the flashing. So it's gonna be hard to see on camera, but right in between, on this axle here, in between the gear, in between the part where the joystick sits, there may be a little bit of flashing left in there, and that's gonna cause some areas where the stick is gonna be a little tight. It might feel a little weird. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna come in here with the knife and just with the weight of the knife, just go back and forth. Just like this. I'm not putting any pressure on the knife whatsoever. I can feel it catching a little bit, so I can feel a little bit of flashing. And if we look at the knife, there's just a little tiny bit of black plastic on it. Just ever so slightly. So if I show it up to the camera close, you might be able to see there's certain lines where you can see the 2 molds came together to make this piece. And that's basically what we're trying to get rid of. So we're just letting the knife do all the work. Just like that, all the way around the spindle on this guy. Don't put any pressure, let the knife do the work. Make sure you're using a sharp knife. And we're gonna come around on the other side and do the exact same thing between the middle part here and the end part of the gear. Exact same spot. I feel it catching a little bit. As soon as you feel it not catching anymore, you can start rotating and try and get rid of that seam along the whole thing. Boom, just like that. And if we look at our knife, you can see little bits of black plastic, and that's all we're getting rid of. So I found another thing you should do too, is there might be some flashing on the inside here. So what I do is I go a little bit, scrape a little bit of plastic on either side. This is what I found over my over 50 controller repairs, is doing these little things really makes the stick feel different. So we're going to flip it over and do it on the bottom side as well. A little bit of scraping you could hear. We're just taking ever so little amounts of plastic off. What you could do as well is if you see the seam on this part, take your knife, lower it a little bit until you can't really feel it. And that's our smaller gear. So now for the bigger gear, we're going to do the exact same thing as the smaller gear. Go right in between the part where the joystick sits, the end of it, the gear side between the middle where the joystick sits, and we're just going to let our knife do the work. Just like that. I can feel it catching pretty bad right there. So we're going to keep going until we stop. We don't feel it catching anymore. So you see little bits of black plastic. Good. We're going to come to the other side. This is something you can adjust later as well if you want to get a perfect stick. If you put the stick completely together and it feels weird, you can definitely take these out again and do the exact same thing I'm doing. Just like that. Bigger stick again, we're going to go right here in the middle. Just like that. I'm going to do the other side whenever I rotate it. I'm not sure how much this little part in the middle helps, because I know most people only do this part right here, but again, I've noticed that this does help quite a bit depending on which batch of gears you get. So some batches of gears are better than others, obviously, so you might get a perfect batch one time and another time you might get a way worse one. So now that we have both of our gears done, we're going to take the old ones and put them off to the side. Clean up our workspace just a tiny bit. And now what we're going to do is we're going to insert some silicone grease right into the middle of our bowl. We're going to take our Q-tip, grab about that much, put it directly in the middle of the bowl, give it a little pat. We don't need a whole lot down here, just enough to reduce the friction points so we don't grind the new bowl. And then what we're going to do again is we're going to take our tweezers, grab a tiny bit of silicone, and we're going to put it in the 4 places where the joystick sits, or the 2 gears sit, sorry. The joystick sits directly in the middle, and the 2 gears sit on either side of it. And we're going to put just a little bit of grease on all 4 of those contact points. I found this helps making the stick feel smooth again. So again, just a little bit of grease right there in between all 4 of those contact points. So now we could start building our new stick. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our little plastic disc off. We're going to take our little, let me throw everything, my spring off, and then our joystick's going to just fall out basically. We might have to rotate it a little bit to get it out. As you can see, there's channels where it sits in here on the left and right side. The joystick basically goes in vertical, and then you rotate it horizontally to get it to lock in. So we're going to take that out. We're going to give this a little clean since we're here. Clean the goo on the outside from all the plastic that has ground down over the years. Just like that. Give it a little extra scrub. This plastic really does kind of stain, so you might need to scrub it a bunch of times. Just like that. Pretty clean now. So now we can start building up our joystick again. So we're going to take our back half of the plastic and we're going to set in our bowl and our rotary encoder wheels. Make sure that they're moved, sit, and they're nice and tight. They can't move at all. We're going to take our logic board now and we're going to set that back in to where it does at the back of the piece. You can see back where it goes, where these 2 clips are. The cord comes out the back. There's a little room for it. So now we're going to set our gears in. So we're going to set our bigger gear in first at the bottom, going horizontally. And now we're done with the back half for right now. So we're going to take our front piece and we're going to rebuild the joystick backwards. So we're going to put our original stick back in, just like that. So just a side note, whenever you are replacing these, you don't need to replace all 3 parts. So the bowl, the 2 sets of gears, or the set of gears, the small and the little, and the joystick, you can, if you want a perfectly good working stick again, you can replace the joystick here. But I find in order for the stick to be good, you need to replace two of the 3. So I replace the bowl and the gears and leave the joystick. You can replace the joystick and the gears but not the bowl. If you get 2 out of 3, you're pretty much going to have a stick that works pretty good. If you want to replace all 3 and have a perfectly brand new stick, totally up to you. but to keep the cost down a little bit on me, since I'm doing so many of them, I only replaced 2 of the 3. So it'd be the same way. If you got a new joystick here, you just put it in at this point. From here, we're going to place our spring, and we're going to replace our like retention wafer looking guy here, and we're going to hold it. So the bottom joystick is being held with my middle finger. I'm holding the spring down with our little wafer here with my index and my thumb, and we are going to put our small gear on. We're going to want to make sure that the joystick little bottom part here is orientated horizontally. We're going to slide the small gear on. It might be a little bit of a tight fit because it's a new gear, and then we're going to turn the gear to lock everything in. So you're going to want the gear head to be facing up on the joystick, and you're going to want the joystick bottom to be facing horizontal, as you can see here. So this basically locks in all the tension from that spring. It locks in absolutely everything, and this is where we're going to click the 2 halves together. So all we're going to do is we're just going to make sure that we insert this part at kind of like a 10-degree angle so that the little notches go underneath the little clips, and we're going to just clip everything together just like that. Everything clips right in. The small gear clipped into the bigger gear, the joystick clipped into both of them, the 2 top clipped into each other. And now we have a new joystick. As you can see, this joystick 100% goes back to center. Every direction. It feels good. It's well lubricated. And we haven't even put our set screw in yet. So we're going to flip the joystick over. We'll make sure that we're holding both the front and the back parts. And we're going to slip our little black screw into the top hole on the bottom. And we're going to tighten this down just like that, just so we feel resistance, just like that. It's good. And now we're going to feel the stick. Do I need to adjust that set screw? Does it feel like anything's like meshing with each other? No, everything feels absolutely new and fantastic. And as you could hear, it also sounds like it. So we are done. We are done now. We are going to reinsert the joystick into the controller now, which is basically as simple as dropping it in, connecting it to the connector here. This connector can be a little weird, so don't force it too much until you know that it's actually seated in the pins. It's in. Okay, it's in. You can see it's in whenever this top piece, the connector, plugs into the female part here at the bottom. We're good. We're going to set the Z silicone button with the little daughter board back into the slot where it sits. Make sure that the black plastic is over the silicone piece. And now we can start replacing the screws in the joystick. So most of the time you want to go in a star pattern, but since there's only 3, I'm going to do right, bottom, and then left. It's kind of tough getting. You can use a pair of tweezers, but I find I mainly just drop the screw whenever I do that. So I try and use the magnetism from my bit a little bit. There we go. Just till you feel resistance. I can tell based on the sound of my screwdriver when to stop. It will also stop itself at some point, but I usually don't let it get that far. Good. And just like that, we're good. So reinsert the bumpers here. So you could tell which way they go based on, well, right and left. So we're looking at the controller completely flipped over. So right is going to go on our left side, and then the left is going to go on our right side. So whenever we flip over the controller, it's going to be the right orientation. We're going to take the back and slide it back in just like this. We're going to make sure that each of the 3 nubbins here is clipped down and you can't push it anymore. And then we're going to start in our star pattern again. We're going to start at the top right just till it gets tight. Bottom one, we're going to go right next to the bottom one here. We're going to go bottom right now. That little click you heard, it sounds like snapping plastic. It might be the little screw cavity in the bottom that snap, but most of the time what it is the two halves of the shell clicking together. More than 9 times out of 10 it is. We're gonna go to the bottom one here. We have one screw that we actually took out, and it's gonna go in this hole. Boom. And then we have this screw left. Good. And now we're gonna do the 2 screws in the top. Just like that. And this screw fell out, so that's fun. We're gonna have to get that back in. So this is what those screws look like. I try and keep them inside of the expansion port for the controller because they are super difficult to get back in. So we're gonna have to angle this weird. Okay, we got it. Good. And that controller is fully rebuilt. The stick is fully rebuilt on this controller. And as you can see, the noise is a little different than the original. And it feels, this is an original stick here. It has more of a click to it. This one has more of a thud to it. But it does feel almost the exact same. It is fully usable now. You can use this for smash, and the golden test is GoldenEye because of the aiming in that game is so sensitive. But we're fully done. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more of my tutorials and shorts, and we'll catch you next time.